My name is Busshō Lahn. I am a mindfulness instructor, but I'm also a Zen teacher and a spiritual director in the United States. I'm in Minnesota, the beautiful Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota. And I have been practicing and teaching meditation practices for about 20 years. And I have a largely virtual meditation group community called Flying Cloud Zen that I've been working with for a number of years now. And so a lot of what we're going to do today is very familiar to me and maybe familiar to a lot of you too. But I also suspect that for some of us, this is pretty new material, right? So our assumption today is that the topic of mindfulness and mindfulness for stress reduction, which is what we're calling this today, might be pretty new for most of us. And so we're going to make that assumption today going forward. We're going to start with some pretty basic stuff. It would be helpful for you to know what we're doing today together is much less about me giving you information that you don't have, and much more about us just trying a few things together, some experientials together, and kind of seeing how it feels for us. We're kind of exploring our own ways of paying attention together. So this might be a little bit different than some of the other live streams you've done, a little more experiential and a little less about needing to grab on to something, a little less about learning something new and a little more about remembering that you have lots of different ways of paying attention to your life, right? So let's start with that. We'll start with the word mindful. Most of us probably know that word now. The word mindfulness has become, I think it's fair to say, mainstream now. When I started, it was not. I only started probably 30 years ago, actually practicing. And at the beginning, that word was not well known, at least not in the part of the United States I live in. But it's become a common word, and I'm grateful for that. I'm glad that the word mindfulness and that a lot of these awareness practices have become not only more well known, but a little more welcoming to people. I think it's a little less intimidating or strange for human beings to talk about the ways that they pay attention to things. I like to think that anyway. And so the word mindfulness, the English word mindfulness, comes to us from a very ancient word in Sanskrit, sati, S-A-T-I, sati. And we've translated it as mindfulness, which is pretty good. But it might be good to also learn that the origin of the term, sati, implies a wholeness of attention and not necessarily just brain attention. I'm saying that because in our culture, the word mind and the word brain are oftentimes regarded as synonyms. We use them sort of synonymously. So mindful, it would be easy to think, oh, that must be about thinking, and it can include thinking, but primarily it's noticing the way that we pay attention. And so mindfulness, the way we're going to talk about it today, is our capacity, your capacity, all of our capacity, to pay attention in a way that's a little less filtered by our socialization. That sounds complicated, but it's actually not. What I mean is, usually when we're taking in new information or we're paying attention to our lives, we're talking to our friend, we're walking to the store, we're buying groceries, we're filtering that experience through what we like and what we don't like. What we like and what we don't like. What we like, what we don't like. What we want more of, what we want less of. And so all of us do this. We're filtering our experience all of the time through our preferences. And what I'm really talking about there is our judgments, right? We have pre-existing opinions and pre-existing values that we attach to people, to objects, to experiences. I like, I don't like, right? All of us do this, so that's not a problem. But mindfulness, and what we're going to play with today a little bit together, is the thing we all can do, which is I can pay attention. There's a way that I have naturally evolved as a human to pay attention to my experience in a way that's not always filtered through that kind of accumulation of preferences. We call it the ego, right? Or the sense of self. And so what we end up doing is experiencing and remembering how to experience things in a way that feels very fresh, like a beginner. Like, oh, I've never experienced this before, right? And the reason I remind you, you know how to do this, that we all know how to do this naturally, is when you try a new dish at a restaurant you've never been to, and you have the experience of noticing flavors in your mouth you've never had before, you have that fresh instant of, oh, I don't know what this is. I'm a beginner. It's fresh. I haven't made any judgments about it yet. I haven't decided like or don't like, want more of, want less of. I haven't done that. I'm just aware. I just notice it. I'm just noticing it. I'm not needing to label it, right? Not needing to judge it. Wow. What an amazing thing that is. We see this a lot in children, right? You can recognize this is kind of a kind and childlike way of paying attention to our lives. So that's the way we're going to talk about mindfulness. We're not going to talk about mindfulness as self-improvement, and we're not going to talk about it being a fix or an upgrade or any kind of lesson to be learned here, right? So I hope that's a relief to you. You can relax. There's no reason to strive. There's no reason to grab. There's no reason to attain anything. We're just going to play a little bit today. A little bit of play for all of us during a stressful time. So I invite you to join me in grabbing a cup of tea if you don't already have one. And wherever it is that you are finding yourself listening to this or watching this recording, maybe take a moment to just rearrange yourself, maybe how you're sitting. If you'd like to light a candle, I always like to light a candle. I find it relaxing to have a lit candle near me when I'm going to do even 5 minutes of simple meditation. I find it helps me. If that means moving to a different chair, changing the way you're sitting, feel free to do that. What we're doing is we're making a choice about our surroundings, and we're making a choice about our bodies, how we're sitting, right? I'm not going to give instruction on right or wrong. What I trust is you are already an expert sitter. You already know how to sit. And I also trust that you know what your body wants. When you decide, hey, I'm going to pay attention for the next 10 minutes to something, I'm really going to pay attention. And so I'm going to want to choose a posture. I'm going to want to choose a way of being in my body that helps me to be alert, helps me to pay attention, but that also helps me to relax. I want to be relaxed and attentive. Relaxed and attentive. So take just a second to do that, whatever that looks like. You probably want to turn off your phone or your whatever's likely to distract you, if you can turn that off. And we're going to start with something very, very, very simple. And I encourage you to join me if you can. We're going to pay attention to a couple of things that we are all already doing. And we're going to pay attention to two things that we are all already an expert in. So again, I invite you to relax. Let's start, please, by paying attention to that body. Just notice it. For just a moment, just kind of inhabit that body that you occupy. And notice how you've chosen to sit. For just these next 10 minutes or something, notice the posture that you've chosen to prepare yourself for sitting for just a few minutes, where you decided to put your hands, what shape they're making. How your head might be balanced above your shoulders, where your balance points are. Where are your feet? What direction are they facing? You can see that I have closed my eyes. I kind of do that instinctually when I'm checking in with my body. So you can choose to do that too if you'd like. I could make little adjustments to that if I wish. But I want to encourage you to start by noticing today, as we're doing this together, all the parts of you, parts of your body that are either directly or indirectly in contact with the earth. That's probably going to be the soles of your feet or your knees. If you're sitting cross-legged, it might be the back. If you're sitting in a chair, you can feel the stillness of the earth in your back or in your seat. If you're sitting on a couch or a chair or a cushion. We're just going to start by noticing the stillness of the great earth. It's right there for us. Just notice the parts of your body that are in contact with that great still earth. There it is, so faithful, holding you up. I notice when I am feeling very scattered or frightened, if I'm experiencing a lot of fear or anxiety, the scattering effect of fear, if my mind is going, if my brain is going, if my heart is going really, really fast, that's sometimes the right medicine for me is to take 3 breaths and just close my eyes and say, what part of me is touching the ground right now? What part of me is actually experiencing directly the contact with the great still earth? I sometimes find that just reminding myself that I am experiencing stillness, there's part of my body right now that's registering stability, stillness, faithfulness, calm, that beautiful still earth right where I expect it to be. That sometimes that can be of help. I feel like my life is being supported. Yeah. So just noticing, we're just starting by noticing the part of us that is always registering stillness. It's funny, right? It's never absent. We're always touching it. There it is. And then let's pivot just a little to the noticing of all of the sensations in that body of the breath. all the sensations of the breathing that are happening in that body. You don't need to breathe any special way right now. Just like the stillness, the breathing is already happening. You're already an expert. But just notice, oh, hey, you're breathing. There's a breathing body there. Can you be the noticer of the breathing? It might help at the beginning to notice where in your body you notice your breath the most easily, like where it shows up for you the most obviously. So for you, that might be the rise and fall of the belly, if you're welcoming that breath all the way down into the diaphragm, all the way down into the belly. You might feel the rise, the expansion of the belly. And then it kind of collapses a bit back toward the spine on the out breath. Expands like a balloon on the in breath, and then back again toward the spine on the out breath. I notice my breath there. I also often notice, and maybe this is the case for you today, the breath at the level of the chest and shoulders. If your breathing is a little higher in your body, you might notice the shoulders rise and fall. The expansion of the muscles, the contraction of the muscles. You might notice it most easily today at the nostrils, just the air, the breath coming and going at the nose. It's cool on the way in, and warm on the way out. If we get curious about it, we discover breath has a rhythm that it chooses all by itself. We don't need to try. We discover that breath has a sound and a smell and a taste. It has a texture, a temperature. Every breath is different. Right? Like snowflakes, they're all a little different. And just like our experience of standing on the earth, the breath is very faithful. The next breath is always right there, right on time. Right on time. I notice when I am feeling stuck, if I feel heavy, this might be the heaviness of sadness or the stuckness of feeling kind of trapped or overwhelmed by experience. If I have that experience we all have of feeling kind of heavy or trapped in some way by my life experience, I will sometimes close my eyes and for 3 breaths just notice that the landscape of my breathing is always changing. It's just movement and movement and movement. It's freedom. It's dynamic, right? Just the movement of a living being exchanging air. It feels very free. It feels very spacious. It feels very open. And therefore, I can sometimes connect that to the feeling of hope, right? Hope, movement, dynamism. Wow. Right? It feels like sunlight on a field. So, for just maybe 20 more seconds, let's see if we can hold both of our new friends at the same time. Our awareness of the stability of the earth that we feel in our contact with our seats today, at the same time that we're aware of the constant movement of the breathing. Let's see if we can do that for just a few seconds together. All right. I wonder if you heard my bell. I hope you heard my bell. I have this lovely bell next to me. I like to ring the bell at the end of a sitting. So let me talk to you for just a second about what we just did. And then we'll do something else together. Because what we just did is simple. I think it's fair to say simple. But I also think it's fair to say it's not necessarily easy. Right? Things can be very simple, but still challenging for us, still difficult. What you just did for just a few minutes is something that a lot of us actually kind of forget to do, or maybe even never do. And that is just to drop kind of our normal agenda, to drop for even a few minutes our ideas about the past and our ideas about the future. What you just did for a few minutes is allow yourself, kind of invite yourself to just have the experience that was already happening. Did you notice that? You were already sitting in a chair. Your body is already registering the stillness and the faithfulness and the stability of the earth. It's always doing that. It's never not doing that, right? That's already happening. And all the sensations of your breathing, that faithful coming and going, faithful coming and going. There it is, cool on the way in, warm on the way out, already happening. You didn't have to learn, you didn't have to grab, you didn't have to master, you didn't have to evaluate. There's no bad breath, right? You just did it. And for those few minutes when we did that together, what you were inviting yourself to do is just that, with nothing needed to be added to it, right? So simple, but you can kind of feel this is not something we normally do. We just don't normally do this. And so what you actually just did is you exercised, it's kind of like a muscle. You exercised your capacity to pay attention to something and just be with it. Not needing it to be different, not needing to fix it. You didn't have to have an agenda for it, right? You didn't have to push one thing away or grab onto another. You didn't have to label anything good or bad. You were just available, really just available to an experience. And what I really want to highlight is that capacity to just be with something, to not have an agenda for it, not want to change it, to just be available to it, to just notice how it feels. it's deceptively profound. It would be easy for us to get confused and think that what we were just doing is something that a 3-year-old could do, and that this is elementary school, and we should kind of judge it for being too simple. It's not profound. We would be wrong. Because you're right, a 3-year-old can do it. But a 10-year-old has a hard time, and an adult has a very hard time. Isn't that funny? Because our way of being present changes as we get older, and we're so much more used to filtering all of our experiences through, I know this, I don't know this, I like this, I don't like this. This has something to offer me, it doesn't have something to offer me. And so we kind of develop an autopilot, a way of being in the world where the vividness and the freshness disappear, and the stress, the accumulation of expectation, the accumulation of judgment, the accumulation of evaluation gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I know you all know exactly what I mean. So we say mindfulness for stress reduction. The truth is, what you just did is, I actually just remembered that the thing that's actually happening is very, very simple, and it doesn't have much stress. Right? Where I experience stress usually is I add and I add and I add my judgments and my expectations and my evaluations, and I create pressure. And I need to do that as a being. I understand. I have an ego and I have a function and I've got a job in the world and I've got things to do. Yes, of course, of course, of course. But it's very profound. And the potential for changing the way we experience our lives in just the remembering, hey, what's happening right now? What's actually happening? I'm occupying a body. The breath is coming. The breath is going. Gravity is tugging on me as it always has. I can feel the cloth against my skin. My clothing is happening. Right? I can see the field of vision, areas of light and areas of dark. I can feel parts of my body are kind of cool today. Parts of my body are very warm. I can notice the areas of my body that are constricted, and I can notice the areas of my body that feel spacious and relaxed. I'm just being present to something that already is. But for that period of time that we call mindfulness practice, or meditation if you wish, I'm allowing all of the additional narrative, the evaluation, the judgment, the ideas, the memories, the projections, the planning, the agenda to just fall away for a little while. I hope you get just kind of a subtle, intuitive sense of, oh, paying attention to your life in this way might have some pretty profound implications, right? So I'm describing a different way of paying attention. It isn't what we pay attention to, my friends. It's just how we pay attention. It really isn't what we pay attention to. It is actually how. It's just how we notice. So what you just experienced was a little more curious than we normally are, right? And you notice with a little more steadiness than you probably normally do, and a little more softness. So we've just used 3 really plain words to describe mindfulness: soft, steady, curious. Those words feel good, just like, oh yeah, right? So let's do another one. Do another one, okay? All right. We're just recognizing. We're recognizing what's showing up. Isn't that cool? We'll do another one. So you can adjust your posture again real quick if you want. We'll do a short version of this one. I just want to put an idea in your head so that you can practice it later, right? We're just kind of planting seeds. Today. A lot of this kind of stuff can be found online, as you'd expect. You can Google, mindfulness exercises and mindfulness meditation later and see what else you can find if you get curious. But let's do this one. Let's close our eyes again. Let's adjust our postures if we need to and close our eyes one more time. Again, please just notice how you've chosen to sit. Just make a decision. Sit with some choice, with some intention. We tend normally to just kind of plop. We tend normally to plop down in our chairs, but this time let's just make a choice. And I invite you, like before, to maybe blink your eyes closed for this one if you'd like. If you notice any constriction or grasping, any tension, or any holding in your body, we all tend to do that. You can notice that. Maybe offer it a breath or two. It might want to relax. But we're going to use our imaginations here for just a couple of minutes. And I invite you to pull into your mind's eye the most beautiful mountain that you have seen in your life or that you can imagine. Just pull into your mind's eye an image of a beautiful mountain. See it as clearly as you can. People tend to really love mountains. They tend to kind of inspire us with their huge, broad bases, so stable, and their lofty peaks reaching way up into the heavens. We usually feel something when we even let our eyes kind of follow the line going up into the heavens and back down onto the earth. There's something we kind of notice in ourselves in response to this image. And so I'll ask you to pull that image into your body. Imagine you are that mountain. Pull it in. Just with your imagination. Top of your head can become that lofty peak. Right, your shoulders, your arms today can become the sides of that mountain, and your seat, your hips, your legs can become that vast, stable base that the mountain has. Just feel in your body the uplift. Notice the rootedness. You're kind of experiencing yourself as a moving, breathing, stable mountain. Something that's alive, but very, very still. You can imagine the sun, feeling the sun shining down on you. You can imagine weather coming and weather going. You can imagine trees, animals, birds moving. The change of darkness and light with day and night. Coming and going. No problem. The coming of the snow in the winter. The thawing in the spring as it gets warm. The growth of flowers, grasses and trees during the summer, coming and going. Through all the change, the mountain just rests. The mountain just rests. In our human lives, we're experiencing all the time constant change, changing thoughts, changing feelings. Our families change, our jobs changes. The body in which we occupy changes. When we imagine for a few minutes being the mountain, reminding ourselves of our mountain nature, not only are we feeling the stillness of the great earth in our bodies like we did in our first meditation today, but we kind of imagine that we've become it. We recall there's a quality of my being that's always very stable. It isn't always caught by reactions. It isn't always chasing, isn't always running. It just allows the change to happen all around me. That part of us that is the calm center of the storm. The part that observes. Let's rest in this for just a few more seconds together. All right. All right. Kind of neat, isn't it? Kind of neat to be reminded of some of this stuff. I use that word a lot. You can tell. We're just getting to know each other. You've only known me for 40 minutes. But already you can tell, he likes the word curious. He likes the word remember. He likes the word faithful and stable. Yeah, all of those feel like stress-reducing words to me. Faithful and stable, right? Just reminds me of the things in my life that are exactly where I expect them to be. And the truth is, about 95% of my experience is exactly as I expect it to be, and I don't usually notice it. 95% of the time, the teacup is exactly where I set it down, right where I expected it to be. 95% of the time, the candle that I lit is exactly where I left it, still burning. 95% of the time, when I put my feet down, there's the earth, right where it belongs, right where I knew it would be. There's my breath, right where I expected it to be. There's the cloth against my skin. There's the sound of the voice I've heard so many times, right where it's supposed to be. Why, all the change comes and goes all around us. The headlines are different, right? The conversations are different. The thoughts are different. The emotions come and go, right? And yet there's still inside of all of us, that person, the one, the dimension of ourselves that just watches and goes, oh, yeah, This is the thing that's very, very predictable. And this is the thing that's changing. This is the earth. This is the breath. This is the mountain. This is the sky. And I like the word remember as much as I like the word stable and faithful. Stable and faithful make me feel relaxed and cared for. And remember, I like the word remember because for some reason it feels really good to me to think I've always known this. I've always known this. Whatever the new thing is. Yeah, it's new, but it's also something I've always known. Like, hey, your breath is changing all the time. And you kind of go, let me see if that's true. Holy cow, you're right. Yeah, it's changing all the time. But wait, I've always known that. Like, yeah, of course. I've always known that. I've always known that. Mindfulness is very much like that. It's just coming back to a way of being that you're already an expert at. You're just falling out of practice. And so we have to remind ourselves, right? That's why we practice it. That's why we practice it. So we'll do one more very short, very, very short one together. Just again, to plant a little seed. I hope all this is making you more curious. That's what we're hoping. Plant these little seeds. And then I'll say a few more things and we'll open it up for conversation and questions for our last little bit. One more time, we'll close our eyes together. And one more time, we'll notice where our hands have landed, where our feet have landed. We can adjust those things if we want to. You can feel that we're making the body a friendly place to inhabit. Exactly the body that shows up today, not needing it to be different, just occupying it like the faithful companion it has always been. There we go. Settling into the experience. So soften. That usually means just relax a little into the shoulders. Notice the jaw, the chest, the places that tend to tighten up for all of us, and just invite a deeper breath and a little softening around those places. Yeah, a little more space. We're going to want a little more space. And as you're grounded now, as an expert in the experience of having a breathing body, feeling how stable and safe that breathing body is, I'll just ask you to notice what I'm sure all of us have already noticed, which is, wow, there's a lot of thinking. Thinking comes and goes. Yeah, look at all of it. Ideas, stories, images from the past, ideas about the future. Lots of thinking happens in the brain. It's beautiful. That's that organ's job. That's the brain's job, is to think for us, keep us safe. Thank you, brain. You may have already noticed that a lot of those thoughts have emotions attached to them, sometimes little, subtle, sometimes larger, not so subtle. Sometimes those thoughts and emotions move through very quickly. Sometimes they move more slowly. Sometimes they're a little denser. They want to stay a little longer. So as we're sitting here together being curious about the thoughts, see if you can notice the space in between them. There must be a space, right? In between two different thoughts, there must be a space. See if you can notice a space. What we're doing together is looking just a little bit more carefully, aren't we? Looking a little more closely. It isn't just nonstop thinking, is it? There's a thought and then a space and then a thought and then a space. And the thoughts seem to almost move at different speeds. they certainly seem to be attached to different feelings. Boy, there's a lot to be curious about here. So a moment ago, we were imagining we were the mountain. We were the stable center around which lots of change was happening. Seasons were coming and going, weather was coming and going, animals were coming and going, temperatures changing. This is a little bit like that, isn't it? What we're doing now is we're kind of studying the sky and noticing actually the quality of our minds, our awareness, is much like the sky. It's actually very spacious. And that thinking and emotions are like weather. The weather is changing all the time. Cold and hot, and clouds and no clouds, and dark and light, and storms and no storms. Wow. But the sky, the space, doesn't seem affected. It doesn't seem like the sky ever pushes away a storm. It doesn't seem like the sky ever grabs on to a sunny day. It seems like the sky is just a huge open space in which all of the weather happens. So as you're curious for just the next few seconds here about the weather of your mind that's coming and going, the thinking and the feeling, just like the weather on our planet, you know there's a reason it's there. Those thoughts and those emotions have causes. They have conditions that called for them to be there. And you're also aware right now, you're the one who's watching them. Feel how much space is in that watcher. How big the sky is for just another moment. Okay. Well, my friends, I know we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm pretty close to being right on schedule, which for me is miraculous. I'm terrible at being on schedule, but I'm doing pretty good today. We've learned a bunch of interesting things together just by being curious, right? I very much hope you're more interested in this than you were at the beginning. I very much hope that you're like, oh, I'm puzzled by some stuff and I'm confused by some stuff and I'm curious and I want to do some Googling. I want to do some learning and I want to explore some more, right? What did I just learn? One of the things you just learned is that you're not your thoughts. That's a pretty big insight for a lot of us. We imagine that we are them and we imagine that we are our feelings. And so we act from those places. We act from our story on the world and we act from our feelings on the world and we create a lot of stress for ourselves and we can create stress for our friends and our loved ones too. So even the very simple thing you just did of, wait, I'm the one who's watching. Wow, the implications of that are beautiful. I hope you're curious about that. I hope you pull at that thread, right? I'll end with this and then we'll do questions, but I'll end with this because this is important. And this is from Thich Nhat Hanh. And I think a lot of you probably know the name Thich Nhat Hanh, the very famous Vietnamese monk and one of the great pioneers of the mindfulness movement. We lost him a couple of years ago, but he's a very dear soul, and I encourage you to Google everything you can about Thich Nhat Hanh. He reminds us every step is a revolution against, every mindful step is a revolution against busyness and stress. Each mindful step says, I don't want to run all the time. I want to stop. I want to live my life. I don't want to miss the wonders that it holds. There are so many things that are enjoyable, but when I don't practice mindfulness, I can forget and not appreciate them. So when we practice mindfulness, we can come to cherish these simple everyday things, and we learn how to protect them. And so, my friends, that's as much as you need to hear from me today. I'm so grateful for your attention. And as we are wrapping up our time together, I am looking at my friend Lucian is doing this wonderful job of giving me some stuff to look at. One of my friends is saying meditation helps a lot. It helps me to learn to consistently focus on 5 things that I can hold in my attention with different senses in the body, in the room, outside the room. Yes, isn't that beautiful? I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it. We have 5 senses. Can I name one object in each of them? Right? That just becomes a great way of stopping and going, wait, hold on a minute. What's happening? What can I taste? What can I smell? What can I, right? Is there something that I can hear I wasn't paying attention to? Yes, that's stopping. And the 5 things is such a great exercise. Another of our friends this morning says, I had a very stressful fall. Yeah, me too. I want to be able to relax and enjoy my holiday break, but I feel like I am overly worked up from the last 3 months. Boy, I know exactly what you mean. I'm sure most of us have some version of that experience that's fresh in our minds. What I love about your word choice is there's a recognition in what you're saying here of we have in mindfulness practice the opportunity to kind of break a habit of being, right? We have kind of a habit of being, and stress, as you very correctly note, has kind of a energy to it, doesn't it? That kind of wants to keep going. It's like momentum, right? It has kind of a habit energy of its own. It has kind of a momentum. Boy, I've been stressed. I'm so used to being stressed. I kind of think in a stressful way. I then feel stressful emotions. The stressful emotions create more stressful thoughts. My body is tense. I'm kind of used to it being tense. You can feel what I'm describing. Like, oh yeah, this becomes the sort of normal operating system. I'm awfully used to it. And so it kind of keeps going. It has a momentum. That's very, very true. So I love that you're aware, I have an opportunity, we can call it the holiday break, to actually interrupt that habit of nonstop, right? Evaluation, judgment, future focus, whatever you're noticing in your life that's creating the stress, and go, wait, what's actually happening right now? Where are my feet? Where's my breath? Where are my paws? What temperature is my tea? That every time we do that, we're creating a new habit, right? And all of us can understand, if I do this a lot, if I do this with some frequency, if I take time every day, even very simple, 10 minutes every day to set a timer and just go, hey, why don't you just sit down for 10 minutes, set a timer on your phone, sit down, close your eyes, sit up straight with some dignity, remind yourself what a gift it is to be a human, and experience being in a breathing body for 10 minutes. That would help create momentum too. That helps create a pattern, that helps create a habit. Wow. Right? There are other ways of being. It's beautiful. Another of our friends said, I'm excited to see my family during the holidays and I love them, but they can also stress me out sometimes. Oh boy, you must be hanging out with my family. How can I rejuvenate during the holidays while I am around them? Boy, I tell you, I'm glad you're here, and what a beautiful question. My sense is you probably already have a pretty good idea of what the answer is. but I know you are speaking on behalf of so many of us. The holidays are beautiful and we love them for all the things they represent, the coming of the light and the lengthening of the days and the turning back toward, right, longer seasons and growth and all the things it feels good about. But yeah, it's also, there's a lot of expectations. There's social expectations. There's financial drain for a lot of us. There's familial expectations for a lot of us. And it's very, very fair to say that a lot of us experience an awful lot of stress during the holiday. So even the 3 little short exercises we were trying on today, experimenting, I hope give you a little hint of, hey, I wonder if there are ways that I can remind myself I'm the one who's watching this experience. I notice what happens to my heart rate when grandma comes in the room. I notice what happens to my breathing when I get to meet my new nephew for the very first time. I notice what happens to my body, to my neck and my shoulders and my jaw when my phone rings and it's my father or my mother, right? I notice the stress. I notice the stressful thoughts that I tell myself, the stories I tell myself about missing the plane and what they might think and what that might mean about me. I'm kind of just making this up, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm sure you do. The beauty of what you're inviting yourself in to be curious about today is, oh, I can see I'm the witness. I can see the body. I can be present to it. I can see how the breath changes. It must not wear air. I can see the movement of the emotions. I can see fear arise, the anxiety. And then just like I did during the mountain meditation, I can see how it comes and I can see how it goes. And I can see how the thoughts that make me scared show up. I understand why they're there. And I can also watch as they dissipate. Wow. Right. What all of you are asking, these beautiful questions you're all asking, are, I hope, helping to tie us back to where we started today, which is it's really not what we pay attention to. My friends, it's how we pay attention. And what you're curious about today and what we're playing with, this thing called mindfulness, is just a way, and I hope you can hear it in my voice, a way of meeting whatever it is that shows up. A scared body, a busy brain, churning emotions, holiday stress, with some curiosity, recognizing it. I recognize you're here. I accept that you're here. I don't need to make you go away. Instead, I can hold you. I can breathe with you. I can be curious about you. Wow, you've come. Here you are. Can you feel that? And that thing is what sort of changes our experience, right? Perhaps ironically, perhaps paradoxically, when we fall in love with fear, it tends to feel safer and not be so scared, right? When we let ourselves fall in love with our anger, just go, oh, when we meet anger with acceptance and curiosity and care, it changes. Wow. Maybe it needed that the whole way. Maybe it needed that the whole time. Wow. So I know we're out of time here, but I very much hope that you allow yourself to be curious about what's happening, right, in your body, in the world, and allow yourself to be curious about it. And I do believe, and I've seen it happen in many, many people's lives, this simple practice of stopping, breathing, noticing, softening, breathing, noticing, can very much change the way we experience our lives. I hope that for you. I've certainly experienced it for me. I hope it for all of us. Just because what we need is one more kind, open heart, right? A little less reactivity and a little more love. It's wonderful to be with all of you today, and I'm so grateful for this time. Thank you.